Hey y'all, it's Jezebel, and I'm doing a tutorial on how to use the Diff button. If you have read my picture tutorials, you will see that that is the first tutorial that I suggest people look at. It's technically not a beginner tutorial because it kind of expects that you've used the layout editor a little bit and you know how to move things around. Um, but I figured I would do my best to explain it here and hopefully make it easier for people who have never touched the layout editor before to kind of get an idea of what it does. So, to begin with, there we go. To begin with, you're going to want the layout editor. You need it installed on your computer. You do need to run the layout editor as administrator if you want it to work properly, because if you are on a computer that is a little stricter on what programs can do, the layout editor does have to edit other files. So you need to run it as administrator. First thing that I do for the diff button is I create macros, because that means that I don't have to be constantly typing /house and then hitting enter. Or, you can always make a macro to do that. But then you have to sit there and you have to go to, I don't even know where these buttons are. You have to go to the save layout or the load layout buttons. And then, these windows pop up and you have to sit there and find the one you want and save or load it. And what if you grab the wrong one, or you accidentally click erase, or it's just easier and faster to do it with macros. So open the macro window, by default is key bound to the O key. Now my macro window looks different than the default UI because I do run UI mods, but in general it's the same thing. It's going to be a little window like this, and you'll have the emotes tab, and then you'll have the macros tab. It's actually the socials window, not the macros window, but I always call it the macro window because that's really all I use it for. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find an empty slot like this, and it will have the words click to edit. When you hover over it, it'll highlight. Click it, macro window pops up. You're going to want to name it with, or maybe name it whatever is good for you so that you know what it is. This is the button you're going to be clicking to save the house layout when the objects you want to edit are out in the house. So I call it with, and in all of my tutorials I will be saying click your with macro. So it's probably easiest to just call it with. If you're going to be following along on any of my tutorials. However, if you decide to just watch one and then go your own way, call it whatever you want. As long as you understand that when I say click the with button, I mean this macro. So with it highlighted, macro step command, you're going to say add step, and you're going to type /save, not load, save underscore, and if you're not sure what that is, it's the shift button and the dash or minus, which is right next to the 0 key. So save underscore layout space WITH with, and then we click OK. Ta-da! Next, I'm going to go click to edit. This one is going to be our without macro. Once again, with command, we're going to say add step, and we're going to type /SAVE underscore LAYOUT space. I just confused myself by spelling. Oh, without. Okay, save layout without. Apparently I cannot speak and type the letters at the same time without losing track of what I'm trying to say. Alright, so save layout without. This is the macro that you click when the house does not have the items you want to edit out in the house. So you can either click it before the items are placed in the house, or you can click it while those items are in the moving crate. It just depends on whether the items were already in the house when you started working with them. Okay. Now this one is a little bit different. I call it working. That's not how you spell working, guys. Okay. Working. And the command add step. This one is /load. This is the only load layout that you will be using. /LOAD _ LAYOUT working. I almost typed load layout load because once again I cannot type and spell verbally at the same time. Okay, so here we are with our 3 macros. Load layout working is the layout you are going to load in the game in order to make modifications to your build. So yay, we have the 3 layouts here, and then I'm not even going to use them because I have an entire page of macros here that I have for housing. So these are not really used for the tutorials, but I'm used to clicking these buttons, so I practically go here without thinking about it. And if I were here, I would probably keep accidentally mounting and dismounting off of my mount instead of clicking these buttons. So I'm just going to clear these because I don't actually need them, but you should keep them. Now, what you can do is drag these to your hotbar if you have space. I think you can sort of see it down here. Hotbar, yeah. I don't like to do that. I like to leave it in this window because then I can immediately see the names right there. And I just, plus it leaves, you know, the hotkeys free. So I don't accidentally click a hotkey, like if I'm trying to move around and my finger slips and hits a number. I don't suddenly find myself loading something I didn't want to or saving something I didn't want to. Anyway, so yeah, I just like to leave it up here, but you know, whatever works for you is the right thing to do. So now that you have your layouts, there's one last step you need to do, and that is, if you do not already have, now let me fiddle with my layout folder real quick so that I can show you what I mean. I should have done this before I started the tutorial, but it did not occur to me until right now. Oops. I forgot that I had my program set up to show this part. Okay, so we're just going to move all of these to the archived layouts folder. And we'll close it. There we go. Alright, so now here we are back in game, and we're going to say we want to load a layout. We don't have any layouts in our list. That's not very helpful. We're going to do save layout, and we're going to save layout working. That's not how you spell working, guys. That's the second time I've done that. Okay. This is a little different because that step was actually for the layout editor. If you've never done a diff file before, you're going to need the working file available. Well, you don't actually need it available, but it's helpful. So I like to do that if you've never done a diff before. So with that said, so I've got all these great items in my house. My house is coming along wonderfully. Can't you tell how much time and effort and work I've put into this? It's beautiful, guys. I love it. It's great. There's just one problem. Just one. Okay? One problem. See these two things here? They're in the wrong place. I want to move them, but how am I going to find them in my list? Actually, I lied. We're going to leave these two things alone. We're actually going to move... Where'd it go? I thought there was a set of stalls facing here, but I guess I moved them. Okay, so we're going to move this right here. So I want to move this entire stall right here. And if we look around, there are quite a few other stalls that have the same exact items. I mean, some of these items are unique, like the helmets, but then there's the building blocks that are definitely not unique. You know, there's another one right here, and another one right here, and another one right here. And so if we go and we save our with layout, and then we go file, open with, well, insert really bad word here, because look at all this crap. You know, how are we supposed to find the one we want? Good news! That's where the diff comes in. We come here and we say, okay, we've already saved our with file. That's the file with the items we want in it. Okay? So now let's pack all these items in the moving crate. Not pick up, pack. Do not pick them up. Please, please listen to this. Do not pick up these items after you save the with file. As soon as you hit that with file, those items do not leave the house, because the with file has the UID that belongs to those items, and it needs that in order to know which divider, which tile, which column it's moving. So if you pick it up, it's going to start stealing from somewhere else, and it's going to screw things up. So, right click, pack in moving crate. Right click, pack in moving crate. We're going to do this until everything we want to move or to work with is in the moving crate. Not in your inventory. Do not pick it up. Sorry if I'm kind of, beating you over the head with it, but 99% of the time when someone says, oh no, my items are being stolen from elsewhere in the house, I say, did you pack the items in the moving crate or did you pick them up? They say, well, I picked them up so that they wouldn't be there anymore. And I say, well, there's your problem right there. Please don't pick up your items. Pack them in the moving crate. And lag hits. Oh, that's awesome. Come on. There we go. I really hate when lag hits and I'm trying to do a tutorial and it's just like, when I'm decorating for myself, I can sit there for 5 seconds waiting for the menu to come up. I mean, it gets a little frustrating, but it's okay. But when I'm sitting here trying to do a tutorial, it's nicer if it cooperates. Almost done, guys. Just 2 more items. Oops, that was move, not. Okay. So, that's our entire stall. It's been packed up. This is a house without the items out in the house. They're in the moving crate. So we click the without macro. Save it, and yay, lag didn't really kick in too much, so it's already saved. Go to the layout editor. Click the diff button right here. It's really easy to find, right here. Click it. Little window pops up. And you need to make sure that this window points to your Everquest II saved house layouts folder and the without file. You can do select file and browse to it. So in the case of most installs of EQ2, you will find it in C, Users, Public, Sony Online Entertainment, even though it's daybreak now, Installed Games, Everquest II, Saved House Layouts, Without. If your game is installed in a different location, please make sure that this part right here matches your location, not my location. Your location, this is where my game is saved. If your game is not saved there, please make sure it doesn't say that. Okay, so while that said, blah, 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 we click run. Ta-da! Now, right now, you'll have to take my word for it, but this actually is every single item in our little sales stall. And not only that, but it does not include any other items. It includes just the items from the stall. As you can see, it was 27 items. Save group. If you've never done a group before, you will have to go to your saved house layouts folder and find that working file that I had you save before you started. And in fact, that's exactly why I saved that file, was to make it easier for you to go to select file and navigate to it and save it. So do not name this file with. Do not name this file without. Name this file working, please, because that's the file that you will load in the game with the macro. So you want to make sure that it matches your load layout working macro. So save it. Yay, it's saved. Go back to the game. Now let's see what happens when we click the load layout working macro, or as I like to call it, the working macro. Oh, look at that, it's back. So we're gonna say, oh, darn it, this whole thing needed to be moved west because for some reason I don't want it in line with all the other ones. Okay, so we're just gonna go to the layout editor. We're gonna select everything that we just grabbed and we're gonna, oops, that's north. We wanna go west. We're gonna go click west twice just so we can see what happens. Now we're gonna go to the game and see here's all these ones right here, and there's these ones. See all these other ones right here, and then there's this one right here. We're gonna click load working, and only the one we wanted to move moved. None of the other ones did. It didn't steal items from anywhere else. It just moved that one. So this is really useful for that kind of thing. In fact, I'm trying to move it back east because it actually was perfectly in line. I just moved it for this tutorial. So it's useful for things like that. Now, say if you had an entire house built out of sumac and you noticed one of the walls was not aligned properly, you could sit there and use the diff just for one of those walls. Or you have these cups right here and they're in the wrong spot and you wanted to move them as a group, you could do a diff on just these 3 cups and move them where you needed to. And I actually have no idea why I have cups hovering right here, but okay, apparently they were up there and when I moved this one I missed them. Oh well, that's okay. So basically anytime you need to separate an item or items in an existing layout, you want to use the diff. As I've described it in the picture tutorial, there was a function new from diff that the earlier versions of the layout editor had. In fact, this version still has it, but it's a lot harder to find, and that was done deliberately because new from diff is kind of like using a club when you really need a scalpel. It's cumbersome and it's really not as an elegant a thing as the diff. Because say you're here and you did all of this and then you went, oh shoot, there's an item that's in my moving crate that I really want to have as part of this group. Well, you can just go to your crate tab, select your, I don't know, your white marble column, because that happens to be the first item I selected. You know, right click it and say add to group, and you can say add it, and let's sort by crate so we can find it. There it is. Suddenly that group that we made earlier with the what is this thing called? I've been calling it by its name, stall. That group we made earlier with the stall now has another item in it. You can't do that with new from diff. New from diff is like you want to read chapter 1 of a book. So you take chapter 1 and you rip it out of the book and then you read it. This is more like you want to read chapter 1 of the book, so you stick a bookmark on either side of chapter 1 and then you read chapter 1 and you stop at the bookmarks. Now, if you need to read chapter 2, you can move a bookmark and include chapter 2. Or if you only need 1 page of chapter 2, you can, move the bookmark to that 1 page. Or you could add a couple more bookmarks on either side so that you have, pages 3 and 5 and then 7 and 8, and you can just, mix and match and choose from different places and get all the items you need in one group. So it's, okay, maybe book is not the right analogy, but you get the idea what I'm saying. This makes it possible for you to easily add or remove items from the group without having to redo the entire diff function. Because with new from diff, it would literally delete the items from the file, so that there were only 27 items in the group, and there were no items in the crate. There were no so-called main items. In fact, it would have been on the main tab, and there would only be 27 items, period. And that was great for its time, but it's just so much more flexible to use the diff button. So I encourage everyone, use the diff button. Diff button is really great, especially if you have like 50 different items that are exactly the same and you're trying to find that one item that's in front of you. You don't have to sit there and figure out your location and then figure out the location of the item and hope you pick the right one. No. You just literally pack it in the moving crate and then you got it. So, anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope it was not too much information, and yet at the same time, I hope it was enough information to get sorry, I'm getting a little bit tired. I hope it was enough information to explain the feature. It's the most used feature in the layout editor for me, and that should really tell you something, because I use it for everything. I really do. Anytime I have to move something, anytime I have to duplicate something, anytime I have to, well, not create something, because creating something I tend to use the circle or spiral or whatever stuff, but I use it a lot. So I hope that this was helpful, and I hope you enjoy. And I think I will sign off now before I confuse anyone else with my rambling. So happy decorating, and thanks for watching.